So I want to shift gears because you played with him both in Atlanta and in Dallas, and that's Deion Sanders. So what was he like on and off the field? And now with him going to Colorado, now taking over that head coaching job, getting a lot of transfers from that. What do you think about that whole experiment that
Man,
they're doing?
I think Deion Sanders is the best thing right now going for college football. I think that he's, while he was a player, he's an unbelievable athlete. I've never seen a guy that could play baseball, hit a home run, get on a plane, and come back the next day and run a kickoff back for a touchdown. I mean, he's just a freak athlete. As far as him being genuine and what he does and what he says, I think it's great for a former player to be this active and be able to have a head coaching job at a major university, that being the University of Colorado. And I think that he understands. I think he does things. He kind of puts things, yokes things together between being a former player and being a player that was in college and really the reality of it. But I think it's transparent. I don't think I'm not going to say phony, but I think it's something that's very sincere. And I think he understands with the NIL and the transfer portal that there are some demands. And I think in the Pac-12 that you have someone like Deion, I always say this. I play for Barry Switzer, and he's a tremendous recruiter. I think Deion Sanders is going to be you look at some of the great recruiters in college football. Now with the NIL and the transfer portal, I think he's going to reinvent that whole new age of the Barry Switzers that can recruit in college football because he has that type of personality, sincerity. I mean, he's a tremendous motivator. And I think for me, he's sincere. And I think that a lot of players really understand the transparency of that because, there's a lot of coaches that it's hard to coach in college football because of the NIL, and especially the transfer portal because you know how long you're going to get these guys, and you got to manage rosters. And I think it's good and bad. I think it's great for the players to get paid without a doubt. But there's got to be a commitment, at least, a year or two. And I think Deion will get that just because I think he's sincere. And really, I think what comes out of his mouth, which we all can sit here, we understand that sometimes that's not true words. It's all about recruiting. But I think that he is very, very charismatic and very good at talking and really hitting home with some of these athletes. And I think that they really he's a communicator and they really respond to that. And I think that comes across as being really sincere.
We are talking to former Falcons, Cowboys, and Jets defensive tackle Tony Casillas. And I like Deion Sanders. I like what he's doing. He almost lost his foot a couple of years ago. I mean, he's been through so much stuff, and everybody says he owes Jackson State. He doesn't owe Jackson State anything. He went to Jackson State to help grow the program. He helped grow the program. He found, some of the top players in the country to come and play at Jackson State, and now he decided he wanted to go to Colorado and try to build that program. And I believe that in 2-3 years from now, if he does well in Colorado, he'll go to Miami. He'll go to Florida State. He'll upgrade. I don't think he's going to the NFL. Everything that I've read about Deion Sanders, he never wants to coach in the NFL, but I think the way he has built the coaching staff right now in Colorado, there are coaches on this Colorado team that could be coaches in NCAA or in the NFL right now. That's how good some of these college coaches that he's brought on, the offensive coordinators, the defensive coordinators. So I love what he's doing. Tony, why don't we get into your Dallas Cowboys? And the Dallas Cowboys right now, they have a pretty good record, and everybody's looking at their record. They're 12-4. And if things fall the right way, they could actually be the number one seed in the NFC. Are you surprised that the Cowboys have been this good this year? And do you think that the NFC East this year was really a wash because a lot of these teams in the NFC are not really that good this year?
Well, I don't know. I think that it's great to see the NFC back because we've kind of experienced the last few years. It's kind of been the NFC least, right, as far as the division. And I think it's great. I mean, you got the Eagles, you got the Cowboys, you got the Giants. And I really think these last two games of the season coming down the wire are going to be pretty intriguing. You got Washington playing Dallas, and you got the Giants playing the Phillies. So I think it's great for the NFC conference. I think there's still some things with Dallas that really doesn't really sell me in the fact that, how real they're going to be. Because what I've seen the last 2 or 3 weeks, it's like, okay, well, when you're a really good team, you want to be trending where you're getting into playoff mode. This week is a playoff game. I mean, you're playing for the NFC East, Philadelphia and Dallas. I mean, you win, the Eagles lose, Dallas wins. They got, they win the NFC East. They get a bye from going into the playoffs, right? So I think it's, it's up to both of these teams to see what they're made of. But I think Dallas, as much as I've seen them over the last years, I'm not really all in.
Why aren't you all in? Is it Dak Prescott? Because a lot of people
I think a lot of people, I think they give Dak Prescott and I understand they criticize him, and he hasn't been as good as you'd want him to be. I mean, he's thrown been erroneous with a lot of different, some of his passes. And
so was Tony Romo. So is Tony Romo. He couldn't get over the hump.
Yes, you got to go way back, back in the 90s, whenever the Cowboys won the last great quarterback, and that's Troy Aikman. Miserable is what you do in the postseason play, right? Mm-hmm. And I think this now is like you're getting into that playoff mode where you can't make those type of mistakes.
Right.
And if you have a defense, and the defense has been a little vulnerable lately against the run, and so I think that you really have to play very complementary football. And I don't know. I think to me, I think it's anyone's playoffs. I think if you go on run, I think if you look at the 49ers, certainly the Eagles, if Jalen Hurts comes back, I mean, how good are they going to be? But I think Dallas and even the Giants, I mean, these teams win, they get hot, they have a chance to do some things. But when you're talking about the Dallas Cowboys, yeah, you mentioned it. Jalen Hurts, you cannot make those type of throws because you play good teams. They're gonna cash in on points, and you just can't make those type of plays in a really tight game. And against against the Texans, certainly against Tennessee, hasn't been the best outcome. I mean, they won the games. Dak's been able to come back and overcome some of his mistakes, but both sides got to play. They have to play, and I think that's the problem with Dallas. It seems like they haven't been on the being able to compliment each other. There hasn't been a consistency, and I think that's, to me, you need to see that, especially to be able to make a run
in the NFC playoffs. So, which team are you most afraid of in the NFC, matchup-wise, for the Cowboys?
I really don't. I think Philly with Jalen Hurts is definitely a tremendous test. But you still got to get Lane Johnson back. You got to get some of their main players back. I think it would be Philadelphia. But the Giants are playing well.
I'm surprised. A lot of people have been throwing Daniel Jones under the bus. Daniel Jones had a superior year, and everybody says, well, what do you mean by superior? He's one of only 3 quarterbacks this year that have thrown over 3,200 yards and ran 600 yards. So,
I like Danny Dimes. I think that he's done a tremendous job when you got a new coach. They can run the football. They got their defense is playing well. And I think that's another thing going these playoffs. And that's something I mentioned the Cowboys is that as much as great a player as Micah Parsons is, I mean, they've been prone to give up some big plays. And I think it's, defensively, you have to really be really good. You have to be consistent. And I just think when you have the Giants, you have the Cowboys, and they kind of play that gritty football, the Giants, who's going to be the most consistent. I love the way the NFC is. It reminds me back when it was all 4 teams were just battling each other. It was a dogfight. I mean, let's get it on. And it has a lot of resembles a lot of that in the past.
Are you surprised when you look at the 49ers and even the Green Bay Packers, if they could sneak in? And right now, if they add an 8th seed, the Green Bay Packers make the playoffs. When you look at the quarterback play of Aaron Rodgers, and he's not going to play a home game this year, so he's not going to have to play in the snow. He's not going to have to play in the cold. If you look at all these NFC teams, they're mostly dome teams or hot weather teams. Do you think that this could benefit Aaron Rodgers moving into the playoffs?
Well, I mean, anytime Aaron Rodgers gets hot, I mean, look out. And I think that's you look at these teams that get on these runs, and teams that have won 7 straight games, and you look at the 49ers, and I think that it really doesn't matter at times. I think sometimes it's whatever element you're used to playing. But I think if you're good, you're good. And I think when you have someone like Aaron Rodgers, it's this guy that feeds off that, feeds off adversity. People like saying, okay, well, we counted you out, but just let me get in the playoffs. Let me get on a run. Let me win one game, and then let's go to the other one. And then next thing you know, you look back and, they're in the NFC Championship game. Anytime you have a player like that is so polarizing, is so good, that really has been there and done that, then that's a difficult task. And you can't ever count those guys out. In the 49ers, to me, with Brock Purdy, I mean, that kid, I watched him at Iowa State, and he looks like just a carbon copy of what he did was in college. And their defense, man, is just amazing. I mean, they just beat you up. I mean, they got tremendous players on that team. And I really think, I mean, it's not sexy, but we know going to playoffs, you got a great defense, man. You can live and die by it.
Before we let you go, Tony, who do you have going to the Super Bowl this year? If you look at all the teams that you mentioned, the 49ers, the Green Bay Packers, the Cowboys, and obviously the AFC, you have Buffalo, Kansas City, the Bengals. I mean, you have three really dominant teams on the both divisions are very top-heavy, but I think the AFC has more talent. Who do you think is going to the Super Bowl this year?
Man, I tell you what, that's a great question. I mean, I love Kansas City. I love Buffalo. I think it's a great story. DeMar Hamlin, will it have this, added incentive and those guys to go play out for the guy? Man, I'll tell you what, I like Cincinnati. I think Cincinnati, that's a team, again, they've won 7 straight, I think, 6 or 7 straight games. Mm-hmm. Joe Burrow, I mean, they're good. But I really like Cincinnati, and honestly, I like the 49ers. And if you ask me who my 1A team is, I like the Eagles. But that's my opinion. But certainly, I think, what I've seen, and I think it's all based on what you see in the last 3 or 4 weeks of the season. And really, there's a lot of merit that go with that, because it's all about where are you healthy?
And we've seen
how you guys playing. I mean, the healthy. You look at all these teams; it's only like one player away, and then it can change the whole outcome.
We've seen 6 seeds actually go right to the Super Bowl and win. In 2010, Aaron Rodgers did it. The Giants did it as a 6 seed, as a wild card team. So we have seen wild card teams win and go all the way to the Super Bowl and win it. So
absolutely, brother.
So we could see it. But Tony, thank you for your time as always. We'll get you on a lot quicker than we did from last year. But you're great. Keep up the good work. All the stuff that you do, all the events that you go to, and you have a beautiful family. Keep up the good work, my friend.
Well, hey, I appreciate you guys having me on. And again, Happy New Year, brothers.
Happy New Year. Happy New Year.
All right, man.
We were just
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, man.